Joining us now, without further ado, Tina Fey from Governor Sarah Palin. Governor, how are you?
I'm doing great. Oh, aren't you just clever?
Oh, well, you know. Did you remember the time we met last summer in Anchorage?
I sure do, because I got your book then, and it's just been great to read. And yes, did you ever catch some fish up there?
Well, I don't want to answer that because it's going to incriminate me. I was the only person in my entire group who didn't catch a salmon. I should have gone with you that weekend on the commercial fishing vessel. It would have been a lot more fun. But, Governor, I know we have a very short period of time with you, and I want to get right to the issue. A lot of people are talking about the bailout and the financial markets, and that ground has been covered with your campaign. But I want to talk about something that really hasn't gotten, in my mind, adequate coverage. It's important to millions of Americans. Back in March of 2001, when he was an Illinois state senator, Barack Obama was one of, actually the only senator to speak against legislation to protect infants who were born alive after an abortion. He called them pre-viable fetuses because if you call them people, he said directly, it would essentially bar abortions because the Equal Protection Clause doesn't allow somebody to kill a child, and if this is a child, then this would be an anti-abortion statute. Governor, what's your reaction to that?
It's absolutely atrocious, and, as we go around in our rallies, and when I talk about John McCain and me and our desire for and our commitment to a culture of life, and we're interrupted with huge applause, I think, I wish I had more time to explain to people what Barack Obama's position has been on this, because I think, Laura, it's been missing out there in the discussion, in the debate about the choices that they have in candidates on November 4th. Barack Obama on abortion, not only saying that abortion is a fundamental right, but opposing banning partial birth abortion, but even more so, more telling, his position on this and on life has been his vote against legislation, 3 times voting against legislation that would provide medical care to a baby born having been a survivor of an abortion. It's very appalling, and I think, if more Americans could understand how absolutely extreme that position is, there would be a heck of a lot more outrage than we already see.
He calls it again, Governor, a pre-viable fetus that, if defined as a person, would get protections under the U.S. Constitution, and essentially he believes it would gut Roe versus Wade. I think the more that your campaign talks about the radical nature of that position to the left of Planned Parenthood, to the left of NARAL, I think people's eyes are going to bulge out of their heads. And the fact that he said he will sign the Freedom of Choice Act, the first thing he does when he's president is sign the Freedom of Choice Act. What's the first thing you're going to do as vice president for life?
Oh, my goodness. One thing, Laura, I think that getting elected is going to allow the not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. Being elected with a family that is quite diverse, including a special needs child. I would just hope that my life can reflect what it is that we will do to usher in that culture of life in our government. I hope that my family alone can just reflect that, because it's so extremely important. You said it best, Laura, and I give you credit when I go around and I use a line from your book when you talk about really kind of living in a messed up world right now, and what's the most promising and precious ingredient that we have in this world? It's a child. That's where our potential is. That's where America's promise is. It's in our children. And I use that, and I believe in it. And again, let me go back, though, to this Born Alive legislation that Barack Obama could not support. It's appalling enough, I think, even for those who are pro-abortion, to understand that Barack Obama opposes banning partial birth abortion, because that's quite extreme. But for him to have had an opportunity to vote to allow a child born as a result of a botched abortion to receive the medical care that he or she deserves, born with that inalienable right to life, and yet he is cited on the wrong side 3 times, voting against the legislation that would provide that medical care to the baby, is the extreme position on abortion. Americans need to know that.
Governor Palin, Barack Obama, as you've pointed out in a few of your interviews, we've talked about consistently on our show, has had a long history of associating with people who I believe in their interviews, recent and distant, have a very dark view of America. I believe they don't like this country. They don't like our traditions. They don't like our culture. They don't like capitalism. I'm talking about Reverend Wright, of course, and Bill Ayers. When you form any alliance, whether it's professional, governor, or personal or political, with these types of people, what does this say about your own view of America?
That's a good point. The issue with Ayers is an issue of judgment, and now it's an issue of candor also, and Barack Obama hasn't told the American people the total truth on that about his association, when, where, all the questions that are finally being asked about that association with an unrepentant domestic terrorist who did raise the campaign to bomb the United States Capitol and the Pentagon. That it's all about judgment there in the next president of the United States.
Well, doesn't it, Governor, go beyond judgment to a fundamental question? What did Bill Ayers see in young Barack Obama? What did Bill Ayers understand was Barack Obama's view on education, a radical Marxist idea of how to indoctrinate young people at an early age? Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez is all for Bill Ayers. What does it say about the collision of their worldviews on education?
Well, also, what does it say when Barack Obama says that he would sit down unconditionally with Ahmadinejad and Kim Jong-il and others unconditionally and, I guess, sort of hand over some of the prestige of the United States presidency and validate some of the positions that these dictators have taken? There we go again with the judgment. And, Laura, it's so important for your listeners to start asking those questions and demanding answers of candidates. We certainly, John McCain and I, our lives are an open book. We're called on the carpet every day, demanded of us to answer questions, and I don't see that on the other side. I don't see the other ticket being asked to be truthful and give these details that American voters are deserving. Your listeners have got to ask these questions too.
Governor Palin, what do you think it says, though, about Barack Obama's view on American education, that they had that alliance when it came to that Annenberg Project, that radical view of how to approach teaching in America? What does it say?
It says that I think Barack Obama's position on that, thanks to his association with Ayers and the radicalism there with an education system that Bill Ayers anyway supports, I think that shows you too that Barack Obama is so far out of mainstream America, and the policies I fear that he would support that are so far left that are maybe today in the campaign packaged up to look really pretty and mainstream, they are not. And we cannot go into this election on November 4th blind. We've got to ask the questions, demand the answers. You know, we're some in the mainstream media are saying, well, we're taking the gloves off unfairly. No, there are only, 26 days to go. We got to start getting answers to these questions that are paramount here so that voters have the choice in front of them that's based on truthfulness and on candor. They deserve it.
And I hope Senator McCain asks that at the next debate. What did Bill Ayers see in you, Senator Obama? What was it about you that got Bill Ayers so excited politically? Do you think, Governor Palin, that ACORN, that group that's getting out the vote, multiple registrations, 10 investigations, states across this country, do you think what they're doing with this voter registration drive could amount to a criminal enterprise?
It's fraud. The connection there to ACORN and fraud is... that too. It's another thing that's absolutely atrocious, and you think, geez, doesn't anybody have a conscience anymore? Allowing this group, perpetuating this problem of allowing people to vote illegally, it's one of those things, again, Laura, where I think, come on, America, wake up and ask these questions and get to the bottom of this also. I'll tell you, Barack Obama, his answers have been quite curious, also his campaigns, anyway, regarding his relationship with ACORN.
Hi, $800,000. $800,000.
Right, long-standing ties to the group, just like everything else. Doggone it, he fails to tell the American people with candor and with truthfulness what his associations are, and we have to know.
Governor Palin, we wish we had more time with you, but I'm going to extend an invitation to you because I'm I'm one of the few women in this talk radio business with the audience the size we have, millions of people across this country. I'm extending to you opportunity to come on every week, talk directly to millions of Americans about these issues. We hope you'll come back. We love what you're doing for the Republican Party. It's a breath of fresh air.